Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Live Your Purpose podcast. I'm your host, John Morgan Jr. Before we get into who our wonderful guest is for the day, I want to just say thank you to everybody who's been supporting the podcast, everybody who has been supporting the merch and the apparel. Thank you. I appreciate that. I never take that for granted. And I'm very appreciative of that. You know, it's been a lot of organic love. You know, a lot of people sending me their pics and their hoodies and their T-shirts and things like that all the time. Like I said, I never take that for granted. I appreciate that. It's been very organic. It's been very authentic. And, you know, we're just going to continue to build this thing, but I cannot build it without the people who support. So thank you. You know what I'm saying? I want to start there first. For those of you who are new to the space of the Live Your Purpose podcast, the space is, you know, this is a place where we have organic and authentic conversations with individuals. We want to be able to have conversations with entrepreneurs ultimately because we want to be able to inspire, motivate, and, you know, uplift the consciousness of people. That's what we're here to do. And we believe that one of the purest forms of being able to do that is about having great conversation. I know we in the technology age, but, you know, good old fashioned talking is never going to die. Especially in the age of the pandemic when your audio streams is through the roof. So without further ado, man, we're going to get into who our wonderful guest is for today. I'm excited about this conversation for a variety of different reasons. Number one, he spun us last week, you know what I'm saying? But he's here today. We have the head coach of St. Vincent St. Mary, Coach Dru Joyce. He is a 6-time state champion as a head coach, too, as an assistant. He's also the CEO and founder of the Dru Joyce Classic AAU tournament here in Ohio. Coach Dru, what's happening with you, man? Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And hey, you know, you're not gonna let me live down.
No, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Don't worry. Listen, we gonna get into it, man. There's stuff that you don't let me live down either, man. So we gonna get into all of that. Yeah. But you know, it's all good, man. Again, man, thank you for coming, man. I'm very excited to have you on. Like I was telling you before we started, I want to get into your story a little bit. And part of my process in doing these, I do research.
Okay.
I read your book, Beyond Championships. I was aware that you wrote this book, but I had no idea what to expect when I read it.
Okay.
And like the first 2 chapters, I was like, okay, he's getting into some real stuff on this book. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's really being vulnerable and like transparent.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. So like, I want to start at the very beginning of your story. East Liverpool.
Yes.
Like, what was it like for you growing up in East Liverpool, late 60s, early 70s? Like, what was that time frame like in hindsight, looking back on it? What was it like, you know, growing up for you back then?
Small town, you know, very humble beginnings. You know, I lived basically with a lot of my family, you know, with dirt road. My cousins lived across the street. My other cousins lived up the hill. So a lot of cousins around. And, you know, we were, you know, as all cities, you got your little pocket of black folk on one area. And, you know, that's how it was on our area. And then there was a larger pocket of black folk on the other side of town. But, you know, it was a good life. I didn't understand, honestly, you know, how poor we were until, you know, because I never wanted for anything. There was a lot of love in the house. Yeah. We lived in, you know, the I guess house that, you know, the family was big. You know, my grandmother was there. My uncle lived in the house, and, you know, so it was extended family, and, you know, it was just a lot of love, you know, a lot of love. And so as far as growing up in a small town, you know, it was, you kind of didn't appreciate it early on, you know, because when I would go to, my sister lived in New York City, or when I would go anywhere around, I would try to, you know, say I lived somewhere else. Or right. I lived the next biggest city. I went to college. I was saying, oh, I live in Youngstown. So, you know, and then people say, wait a minute, no, that ain't nowhere near. You know, so, but the one thing that I appreciate about it now that I'm older and I can look back and see what was good about it is that being in a small town, it was, you know, everybody went to the same schools, you know, so there wasn't a whole lot of, you know, I guess segregation but I got taught the same way all the rich kids in our town got taught. So it was about understanding, having that willingness, that desire to learn and to grow. So as I got to college, I recognized that, oh wow, okay, I'm prepared, maybe a little bit more than somebody who had a different experience, and it was all because of that small town. So, but all in all, it was good. Sports were everything for us back then. It was all for me. It was football, and I ran track, and that's how you kind of you got your little rep in the community, and that's what we did.
How far is East Liverpool from Akron?
About I don't know, miles. About an hour and 20 minutes.
Where is it? Like what?
It's a little small town. If you can envision, it's the first city in Ohio, on the Ohio River.
Okay.
So it's on the corner of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio. So that's where it is, and not much left there anymore. At one time, years and years ago, long before even me, it was the pottery center of America. All the plates and dishes and pottery. When I grew up, when I was a young kid, there was 20 or 30 potteries in the area. So that was the
local economy of the town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So did you know a lot of people who kind of worked in the pottery industry, I guess? Is that what the families and everybody did during that time?
Yeah, some of them, and then there were steel mills too. So those were the two main, and so that's kind of how that worked.
Yeah. So man, we coming off of like one of the most historical years of the pandemic in itself. All of the eyes on the social injustices that's been going on. It's just been an unforgettable year. Even when I ask my elders, my grandparents, or people who've experienced much more life than I have, I'm like, man, have you seen anything like this? Nobody can compare the year 2020 to anything. And I know for myself, I learned a lot about myself in the year 2020. So like for you, man, what did you learn about yourself spiritually and mentally and just like emotionally, just about yourself as an individual? What did you learn about yourself coming off that crazy year?
For me, it really helped me to understand how much family means and how crucial time is, because time is something that you can never get back. So what we did as a family, especially during the lockdown part of it early, last March and April, we just every weekend, my sons and their wives and my grandkids, and they would all come to the house, and we cooked meals together. We had a lot of good time, and then my daughters who live out of state, we would do stuff. We call on the do a Zoom do a Zoom, and we might play a game of category or something over the different families getting together. Yeah. But for me, it was an opportunity to just understand how important those moments are. That sometimes we allow to just get by us. We're caught up. We're caught up in the hustle, the bustle. I call it the tyranny of the urgent. Right. That life is, and but in that moment, it slowed everything down, so that you had to take a moment, and we tried to make the best of it. So as from when you go beyond that, you just recognize, again, those moments. I had I'm the high school basketball coach, and for my team, it was an opportunity to talk to them and help them understand that how precious life can be, and hey, we're experiencing something that none of us expected, but you need to recognize and understand that this is special. These moments are special, and don't take anything for granted, because hey, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is promised.
Yeah, and it's hard for young people to grasp that concept, right?
No, for sure. Most of y'all got the Superman complex.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah, there's one thing that I've done with my players to kind of give them an idea how important time is for me. And it's something that was shared with me years ago. I just pull out, sometimes kids, in your generation, they're a lot more visual. So I just take out a tape measure and I put it out there, 74, 75, even 84 inches. And I'll say, look, okay, this is your life. Y'all over here at 17, 18 inches. Yeah. I'm over here at 65.
Right.
And life expectancy over here 75, 76, 78, y'all can understand.
Right.
Hey, even if I have a good life,
that hit a little
long
different.
life, hey, these moments are important to me. Don't waste my time because you think you got a lot. Now, even with you, none of that is promised, but it gives them that visual. You could just see some of the kids, some of my players, their eyes open up like, wow, okay. They start to grasp this thing, and I tell them, hey, I'm on the downside, and I understand that. So I'm not about wasting any time.
Yeah, that's so profound because like for me, I had my first child beginning literally a week and a half before the pandemic hit. So like normally if we would have had a child, like I would have went right back to work after we got him home. Yeah. But luckily I was blessed to be able to provide service virtually. So I was able to be home and like I was able to see my kid literally grow every day and see him develop every day. That was something I would have never had the opportunity to do. My mother also transitioned in 2020. So like here I am, one of the most celebratory times in life, but also I'm dealing with, one of the biggest griefs as well. So it was such an interesting dichotomy. But what I learned and what I took the most from that year, and I'm still continuing to accept, is like time don't stop.
No,
like it don't matter what happened. Time is going to keep going. Yeah. And like yes, as I get older and just understand things a little bit more, it's so cliche to say, but it's so real.
Yeah, there's another thing that I talk about with my players, and I'm probably going to get the math wrong, but I asked them, I said, if you have $144,000 and you got to spend it every day,
right? 86,400. Yeah, that's the equation.
Okay. So I tell them, what would you do with it? And they want to do this. They want to buy this. And I said, but you can't save any of it. You can't put any of it away. You got to save it. Yeah. And so then we talk about, okay, what I'm talking to y'all about is time. Right. And that's how important the time is because those are the seconds. You can't get it all back.
That's right.
Yes.
And you can always get some money back.
Yeah.
And when you compare those two, that money gonna go, but this time you ain't going back. Ain't no rewind button. It's none of that.
As much as we like one where you get to my age,
it's a wrap. Yeah, it's a wrap. Again, man, I really, really enjoyed this book. One of my favorite chapters was chapter 2, decisions create environment. You said that if decisions create environment, then what creates our decisions? It's our intentions, and our intentions are our why. I love that. You know what I'm saying? Like, looking back again in hindsight, what are some of the decisions that you seen your parents or just people that was around you that you look back on now, you like, dang, like, seeing that now or seeing that then and understanding it now, I'm really grateful for that. Like, is there anything that you could think back on?
Oh yeah, like specifically, hey, I grew up, like I said, pretty humble beginnings, and but my mother always talked about you going to go to college. No one in my family ever graduated from college. Yeah. My parents never graduated from high school, so it was about college. So I do my first year of college, and I come home. And all my boys who didn't go to school, they working in the steel mill. They got money. Yeah. They driving cars. I got 2 or 3 pair of blue jeans, and I'm looking at them like, wow. Right. So I get a little summer job at the steel mill, and I'm like, wow, I ain't ever seen this kind of money. So I had a little easy job too. I wasn't really doing nothing. I was like, you get paid like this, and I'm hardly working. My mother just said, no, and I'm like, I'm not going back. No, she was like, nah, you don't understand. You're going to go back. You're going to do this. And, I wanted to say no, and I had a good friend who was a couple years ahead of me. We played football together, And he was going to school, and he said, "What are you talking about? You got to go back and finish." I'm like,
Right.
"No, man, look at
I'm making bread.
Yeah, I'm making this money.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fine,
Yeah.
because anyway, my mother said, "Hey, this is how it's going to be here," and sent me back to school. I transferred and went back to school. 2 years later, all the steel mills closed down. All my friends, they out of work. They ain't got nothing to do. I'm looking back on them now, and I'm like, wow, But in that moment, I could have resisted. I could have fought. But my mom was, she was that forceful, and in hindsight, I'm like, I'm glad she didn't say throw up her hand and say do what you want to do. She said no, this is how this is going to be. It was like that was her dream for me. And I'm happy that she had that dream for me, because I didn't have it for myself in that moment. I couldn't see it.
Yeah, and that's what wisdom is about, right? Like,
yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's for people to see things that you necessarily can't see for yourself.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing for real. Again, man, like one of the things that I really appreciated in this book, and it was early on, I was like, man, this guy is really being vulnerable. You know what I'm saying, in this book? Like, you said some stuff in there, I'm like, I wonder if people really know what he's putting in this book. Because I think that what people would like they say, you never judge a book by its cover.
Right.
People going to probably think it's just about hooping. It's about Bron, St. V, yada, 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 yada. But you were really digging deep on a lot of your experiences. And one of the things that you touched on in the book, man, you grew up in the church, and you enjoyed church as a kid.
Right.
And you had an experience as a child, man, when somebody made an inappropriate comment to you, and it kind of like, it changed the trajectory of your experience there.
Right.
And I want to, like, one of the things that I do here on the podcast too, man, is really try to, like, be intentional about mental health, healing, being intentional about doing a lot of self-reflective work. At any point in time, man, did you ever do anything to, like, be intentional about healing from that traumatic experience as a kid?
Honestly, I was probably about 15, 16. I was driving because I drove my pastor to this event. So I was 16. And, the comment was just outside, this other pastor made. I'm thinking, wow, this is a pastor making this kind of comment. And I'm like, so it kind of took me back. And kind of, I for a long time, I was like, hey, I don't need this. I don't need the to be involved with this. And so, but what happened is, honestly, I went to college, and as I, started going, I had some friends who were very spiritual, and, honestly, got me involved in some books that we were reading, and, I started reading the scripture a little bit more and trying to understand it for myself. And then, I began to recognize that, sin is missing the mark. That's the definition. And that what happened back then was somebody missing the mark. They didn't understand how their comment could, what it meant. They thought it was, I would feel good about the comment. And I'm like, no, but so I guess I didn't necessarily have any clinical help or professional help. It was just other brothers. This was other brother. We were a group of brothers. We were, started reading spiritual literature, and it helped me to begin to see life and to understand who God is in a different way.
Yeah.
And it became real for me. I began to take ownership of this walk, this journey, because I understood it differently. It wasn't just those stories that you were told as a kid.
Yeah.
It became a real understanding of the journey.
And it sounds like God and the Creator showed up for you in community form.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And again, man, like, I resonated with your experience when you fresh out of high school, in OU, you even say, you like, man, I ain't have sports to keep me grounded no more, so you start wilding out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm reading it, I'm literally like having flashbacks of myself, 19, like I was doing crazy stuff. Like,
Yes.
I was literally like, I would go into a college course. I would go into a class. The class is 50 minutes. I go in 40 minutes late, sign my name, walking out. I'm going to kick it with girls, smoking weed, doing all type of stuff I have no business doing. But in the moment, I'm living, I'm young, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And to hear your experience, I'm literally reading the page, I'm laughing. I'm like, man, this is so funny because we different generations, but
it's the same.
Yes.
It's all about growing up, and in those moments in life, hey, let's be real about it. You try to understand who you are, and sometimes you put on a different costume. You kind of wear it for a little while, and that don't work. Then you try another one, and and in that moment, that's where I was at. I didn't have, like I said, didn't have sports. That wasn't. That costume was gone now. So I threw on these other ones and tried to live them out. And, at the end of the day, it was fun for a minute, but, it wasn't nothing for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And as I got to my senior year, I'm looking around at college, and all my boys they gone.
Yeah.
They out.
Right.
I said, I got to finish this thing.
Yeah.
But that life that I was involved in was still there. It was big, and I recognized that I needed something. I needed something to help ground me, something that I could, honestly become more responsible about. And what I decided, and it's so funny I say I decided, but I felt like I'm gonna get married. I have my wife, and she's been with me to these days, but to this day, but. Back then, we had a little bit of a long distance relationship, and because she we met at OU. The next year, she didn't come back, so for the next 2 years, it was kind of year and a half, 2 years, kind of a long distance thing. But hey, I wasn't very faithful, and sent her through a whole bunch of nonsense. But at that moment. I had no clue what was right. All I was thinking about was me. I was caught up in.
You proposed through a letter, man.
Yeah, I did.
Come on, man.
Yeah, hey. At that moment, hey,
it felt right.
It felt right. And, and the crazy thing about it is, I was so, because hey. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
So,
that's how you was intimate back then,
right,
though.
Hey, and she was, hey, I was on the outs. She was trying to, hey,
she was going for the jugular. Right. You was trying to do whatever you could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She had enough of me.
Right.
So I'm trying to win her back.
Right.
So, hey, I was right, and I just said, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And at first, she didn't write back. She didn't write back and say, yeah, I accept,
Right.
She left me hanging out there, but I just, hey, I believe like this, anything in life, and I understand this more today than I even did back then, that you need to be persistent about some things. I was persistent, and, I was, persistent, and, we made up, and then, I just made her understand that, hey, I'm gonna be good about this. We're gonna make this thing work. And hey, we're 42 years in with four of our children, 7 grandchildren, all of our kids. Hey, it worked out, and we have a great relationship. And she is the in the book, I dedicate the book to her, and I just say in the book that in the book, that book is dedicated to you, and I tell her that she probably would have done really well in life without me, but I couldn't have done anything without her.
Right. Man, it's like the messaging that you were just talking about, like, so many of us as young people, we do have sports to ground us for so long. And as you know, not a lot of kids end up going to that next level, you know what I'm saying, after high school. And so many of us fall into that, into the motions of trying to figure it out, who you are.
Exactly.
How much of your messaging and tutelage today do you share that with your kids, like your players and stuff? Is like, listen, some of y'all, the reality is some of y'all not going to make it.
Yeah, hey, I tell them all the time, hey, the ball's going to start bouncing.
Yeah.
Hey, let's be real about it. I give them, hey, we try to do with the numbers. I say, look, y'all talking about you want to be a Division I college basketball player. I say, okay, here's the real numbers. There's 355 Division I schools, 13 scholarships.
Yeah.
That's a little over 4,500 scholarships for the world.
Yeah, that ain't a big number. Yeah.
Right. I said, now, how many people play high school basketball? 10 million maybe. I said, so look at that. Understand this. So, you got to understand that it's not about, I don't want to take anyone's dream away. All right. So that's not what I'm trying to make them understand. I'm trying to make them understand that don't sacrifice certain parts of your life because you only have one option. Bad decisions limit your options. Make some good decisions about this thing. So the good decision is, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my schoolwork. It's not about, I understand and I tell them, hey, I get it. Some of the stuff you're learning isn't going to you're never going to use it again. But it's about teaching you how to think, how to solve a problem. Understanding how to read. I tell them, readers are leaders. You need to be able to read something. As far as, my pastor shared with us years ago, they say, you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. Yeah. Right, yeah. So, the knowledge that's there is more important. So understand, get the knowledge, get the understanding. So, we talk about those things and how, how important it is for them to have not so much a secondary path, but have a greater path. Right. So that when the ball stops bouncing, you're not out here looking like, wow, what's left? Yeah. And hey, for me, I was, wow, what's left, and I almost went down the wrong path because there was all those other, there was a whole lot of influences out there that, I'm trying to, how it is, you young, you want a little bit of a rep for yourself. You're trying to do some things. And growing up, that was all sports. Now I lose the sports and I'm going to try to do something else. There was some dumb stuff, man. Yeah.
It's so much of our identity is wrapped up in that and trying to survive, man. And that we not really, when you surviving, you're not really able to prepare. Yes. You know what I'm saying? So when life throws a curve at you, you get to just like, trying to do anything. Again, man, so many of us find ourselves in those situations. Right.
I've never grown. I tell the kids, I said, growing up, I'm in my 6th year. I said, I've met a lot of people. I've never met anyone who just decided I want to be a criminal. Yeah, it don't work like that. I never met someone who said, I want to spend my life in jail. Yeah, I just never met someone who thought like that. Now I'm not saying I never met anyone. I've met a lot of people. But I've met people who've gone down that road, and it's all because there was no plan. You got to have a plan. You got to have some kind of a plan. And now the plan isn't going to always work like you want it to work. But you still got to be involved in the process. Have the plan, and be flexible with the plan, and understand that the plan isn't going to look like you want it to look. So you don't give up on it. You have to understand there's going to be some curves, there's going to be some bumps, there's going to be some valleys and some mountaintops. But stay with the plan.
Yeah. That's so important. That's so important, man. Like. And as you were speaking, one of the things that I thought about offhand is like I heard Kobe say one time. He said that everybody looks at the dream is looking at the result, but the dream is really in the process. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because of what you just named, which is the ups and the downs, the stuff that you can't control, the stuff that you in it. You like, man, this sucks. Like why is it going this way? But then you continue to go through that process. You're going to be able to look back on it and be like, dang, I needed that. Like, there's no way it would have worked out if I wouldn't have went through this and that.
You know what? And I like reading, as I've said a couple of times. And when you read most people's lives or you hear a story about someone's life, there's always those moments. Yep. There's always those defining moments where that struggle, it hits them. And a lot, it hits all of us. And so many people don't make it through. Yeah. They, and then they end up, doing something just to survive instead of, doing something that they love, doing something that, is going to grow them, it's going to help them. It's like when we were talking before you got on there, just like you were saying, this has been a dream of yours. Yeah. And, the fact that, you've got other responsibilities and you're handling those, but this is still a dream. And you've worked it out so that now it's becoming real. Yeah. And because, you've stepped out, it's like when, I started coaching, and this coaching thing started taking off, and I realized that way back in high school, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a football coach. Yeah. I was going to be a history teacher and a football coach. That's because I had one of my coaches. I love the brother, and he was a young brother just out of college, and we, back then, he had a nice car. Oh, I can see his,
right.
you know, he got it
going on.
Right.
Yeah, he's doing his
but
thing.
Anyway, you know, got involved. I graduate from school. We get married. I get a job, and I'm not coaching. But then the coaching thing, I have an opportunity to coach my son, and you know, I'm starting to enjoy this. I said many times that, you know, I was in sales, and it was a great life, and you know, provided us my my older two daughters through college, and but there was times when I would pull up in the driveway and I would ask myself, what have you done today that really matters? And I couldn't feel good about anything. I'm selling food. I was in consumer sales. I'm selling food. I in Hunt's tomato sauce, Western oil. I'm like, but what have you done that really matters? And then that night, later on that night, I put all the kids in the van, and we drive up to Cleveland for a basketball practice. And you know, now I'm feeling like, oh, okay, this is important. This is good. And you know, so, and as that went on, and then you know, we have the success that honestly, you know, people look at it and they think, hey, you were lucky. You had, you know, LeBron James, and hey, I don't know whether I was lucky. I just look at it like it was just, hey, I had an opportunity to be involved with some young men, and I took that opportunity and I ran with it. I didn't know LeBron was going to be the best player on the planet.
Right.
At that point, he was a 10-year-old.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
My son was 11. They were 10 and 11 years old, and they grew up together. And you know, but as the thing rolled on, and you know, now I get the opportunity to become a high school coach, and I'm like, wow, this is getting bigger than I even thought. And then now I become the head coach, and we win a national championship. And you know, one day it's so funny. You know, my boss, the brother who was my boss, he calls me up. He says, Dru, man, he says, you know, the president of the company just called me and said, what is Dru doing on the front of USA Today? You know, you know, because it had a picture of Braun, but I'm on the sideline. I'm on the front cover of USA Today, and you know, he's like, what's going on?
Oh, he didn't even know you was a coach.
No, they didn't know I was coaching. They didn't know I was coaching. So,
wow.
You know, and so bottom line is, you know, they asked me about it. I said, hey, I'm doing it after work, blah, blah, blah. It's okay. And, you know, but, you know, not too many companies want their key account managers. I had risen up in the company now, and I'm the key account manager. They don't want them doing that kind of stuff. So, but there was a moment in that they basically, and you know, honestly, I got to be honest with you, and honest with myself first. I was going through the motion with the job. I was just going, you know, because my heart was with the coaching. I'd get it done, but I wasn't putting my all into it like I had earlier in my career. So they, you know, they recognized it. I recognized it. I didn't want to recognize it. Yeah. So they were going. I talk about them putting me out to pasture. Yeah. They were going. I was calling on a major account, Giant Eagle Supermarkets, which is in Pittsburgh. That was, you know, $15 million account, and they pulled me out. They're going to take me out of the account. They're going to have me drive to Syracuse, New York, once a week to call an account that had been Chapter 11 twice. And I'm like, wow, you know. But in that moment, in that meeting, because you know, Dru's a freshman. In high school, Cameron. At that moment, Cameron was a freshman in high school. Dru's a freshman in college, and I'm like, you know, and they said, well, this is your options. You going to drive to Syracuse, or you know, and in that moment, my mouth said yes. I said, yeah, I couldn't see about it. I got in the car, John, and I called my wife, and I said, this is what they want me to do, and I said, hey. My mouth said yes, but my heart's saying no. And she said, let's talk about it. So I go home, we talk about it. We stayed up all night, you know, understanding that, hey, let's take this. We're gonna take this. We you know how it is. You always want to talk about faith. And, you know, Christendom, you know, I believe in God, I got faith.
Yeah, it's different to live it, though.
Yeah. So we decided, hey, we're going to take this faith walk. And without a job that, you know, I had some ideas about what I might want to do. Yeah. Without a job, I walked away from that company. And, you know, and that was 2005. And, hey, we had just built a house. Yeah. Just bought my wife a luxury vehicle.
Yeah.
And
so you needed the money.
It wasn't like we didn't.
Right.
But we never missed a house payment. Now the house is paid off.
And it worked out better than you could imagine.
Oh, yeah. And then all because in that moment, we trusted what we said we believed. Mm-hmm. We stepped out on faith. It wasn't easy, and but through it all, my wife was she supported it. Yeah. Because that was big, because even in there was times when I might trying to figure it out, what we were going to do, how we were going to make it. She was just that support. She always had those words that I needed to hear.
Yeah. You spoke to this on a few different occasions. Is that number one, you guys did step out on faith, mm-hmm. But still the anxiety about and the uncertainty of man, I'm doing something, I'm going through the motions, but I'm not fulfilled. I would imagine, and granted, I'm resonating with that because some of that is just currently going on. I'm experiencing that today. Even though at some points in time I do feel fulfilled in what I got going on.
Sure.
But I would imagine that the majority of us feel like that at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the way that this society has been set up, man, you have to survive. You know what I'm saying? And the majority of us, when you, again, like we said earlier, when you was trying to survive, you're not really considering doing something that's fulfilling. So speak to stepping out on that faith and the fear of, man, I just don't know if this is going to work over here. I know what this equates to at the end of the day when I show up here. So speak to that a little bit.
Well, hey, there were some certain things that I had to do. Once we decided we were going to take this faith walk, I had some mantras that, I just said, all the day, I'm not going back to corporate America. That was one of the things I was saying. I'm not going back to corporate America. We're going to figure this out. I'm not going back to corporate America. We want to build something of our own. We want to become an entrepreneur. I'm not going back to corporate America. My friends, I had a lot of coworkers who were friends, and
you said you cut them off.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah. I had to, because it wasn't because I didn't like them. Mm-hmm. It was because they cared about me. Mm-hmm. But as Scripture said, he who puts his hand to the plowshare and looks back isn't fit for the kingdom. That's how I looked at it. I can't look back and continue in that relationship with them. I'd have kept looking back, and I couldn't look back. So I cut them off, and just started. I'm a firm believer that you speak your reality into existence. That words are powerful. That and that that everything starts with a thought, and then the thought, you got to verbalize, you got to say it, and we just started saying, well, I'm not going back to corporate America. We're going to build a business. I didn't know what the business was going to be at that time, but those are some of the things, and how the business started. I went to my Dru's first college game, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, we just played all over the country as a high school team and beat everybody. Yeah. He playing Cincinnati. Cincinnati got 3 kids from Texas on their roster and only 1 kid from Ohio. I'm like, wait a minute, Ohio basketball better than that. Yeah. So why, what's going on? And I asked the guy, and he said, well, you need to be able to, you need a politician to make this stuff happen. So long story short, all those things happened, and it just showed, I mean, it was so impressive how the Creator allowed all those things to happen. Things that I thought, I'm working Jordan's camp, and I'm thinking that I'm out there because they're going to show me how to do a camp for LeBron. Well, that happened, but Nike guys, they didn't want me doing. They were making all the money on Jordan's camp. They were trying to cut me out of making any money on Bron's camp. So, but the reality was, I met a guy out there who was a high school basketball coach, and he was president of the Ohio Coaches Association. And before the commissioner of the Ohio High School Athletic Association would approve me doing the tournament, I had to get the approval from the Coaches Association. Right. And when, and it's funny, we had how all that meeting happened, and I'm in there with the Speaker Pro Tem from the House of Representatives, and he says, Dru, what are we going to do now? And I said, well, I think I know the guy. And I called him up. I told him what I want to do. He says, Dru, I'm not the president anymore of the Coaches Association, but they listened to me. They approved it. Then we, hey, we got the approval. We've been doing the event now for 16, 17 years, and it's been great.
If you ever want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's so cool. But you also dealt with a little bit of like fear and anxiety when you initially accepted the St. V job too. Because again, reading and it's so crazy with reading the book as well, because like I was there during that era. So like when you said that, listen, they had just came off winning
state championship
back to back. That pressure coming into that junior year was crazy.
Right.
So you were really questioning if you even want to take the job.
Well, honestly, my wife and I were out looking at houses. She take me to they used to have that dream house thing. You go around. We were looking at houses and doing all that good stuff. And I'm not thinking about nothing about. I'm the assistant coach. A reporter calls you and says, "Hey, Dru, Keith just accepted the job at Akron U. Are you going to take the kids and leave?" And I'm like, I don't know nothing about what you're talking about. So, I'm not going to answer that question. So I get home. Keith Danbrock calls me and says, I'm taking the job. I want you to take over as the head coach. And in that moment, I said, no, I'm not ready. And, it's one of those kind of things that, I saw how bright the star was for those guys. Not just LeBron, but Dru, Romeo, all of them. I saw how bright it was. And, I felt like, wow, I never played high school basketball. You know what I'm saying? I'm a football guy. I never played high school basketball, and I've learned because I wanted to learn, and that's who I am. I'm going to learn, but I felt like I wasn't ready. And my wife, again, in those moments, you need that person who can really speak into you, and she's been that person for me. She said, how can you say no? This is God, this is God saying, honoring you for all those years of you driving up and down the highway with that group of guys. And those were the words I needed to hear. I needed to hear that. And so then I took the job fully understanding that if we won, it was going to be because they were Keith's kids. And if we lost,
it was on you.
It was on me. And what did we do that first year? We lost.
Man, I remember watching that game, start to finish. We were in the 8th grade, you know what I'm saying, at that time. And, like, again, man, I remember that, like, being around during that time. And I remember watching that game and, like, man, they about to blow these boys out. Yeah,
we beat them earlier in the season by 17. And
it's crazy because I had Rome on the podcast earlier last year, and he spoke to it. And he was like, man, we wasn't focused. Like, we was kicking it the night before. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was, we just knew we had it in the bag. And then, to hear you talk about the story, man, it's no way y'all should have lost that. But in hindsight, looking back on it, it had to add fuel to the fire going into the next year. Like, looking back on it, how hard was that loss, but how important was that loss?
It was extremely hard because I had to come to terms with it that it was on me. It was on me. I had, like as Rome said, they was kicking. I had lost control of the team. I had gotten caught up in the glitz and the glamour too. I was hey, they walking around kissing babies and taking pictures and all that, and I had gotten caught up in the winning and losing and kind of forgot what was most important. And hey, in that game, we did some things that could have won, but bottom line is I had lost control of the team. Not that they were that bad kids, but like you said, I didn't know. I was sick the night before, in the bed, sick before the game. They out, like Rome said. They out. Rome left the hotel. I find out years later. He was definitely out kicking.
Rome said, man, we was. There's no way we was prepared to play a state championship game.
No,
the next day.
and so it was hard, especially the next day. We come back. The loss was hard enough, and then you open up in the newspaper, and.
I ain't like that, man. I didn't like that.
The headline was real. That I dropped the ball. Where was I when the team needed me most? And it was tough. It was tough to own that. it was tough to own it. And I wanted to, in fact, one guy, I'm like, this guy wasn't even a sports writer who wrote the story. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute.
He just talking crazy.
Yeah, I just wanted to write him back, and I'm pulling out the paper. I wanted to write him back and let him know, well, you don't know who I am. You don't know what I've done for these boys all the years since they were 10, 11 years old, what we've been through, what we've done together. How could you say that? Where was I? And my son, Dru, says to me, he says, Dad, don't do that. He says, let's just show him. Again, in that moment, having that voice and being able to hear it, because I was caught up in this guy doesn't know who I am and what I've been through and what I've done for those boys, but it wasn't even important. What was most important was, let's be real about this. There were some things that you did wrong. Decisions create environment. Yeah. Even though my intentions, I had to own it. Yeah. And once I owned it, then I went back with the boys. I said, look, I got caught up. We're going to turn this thing around, and this is the destiny, and this is how it's going to go. And you can either get on board with me, and or you can go. Yeah. But we're going to do this a different way. But those guys, they understood that they had let something slip away. Because we had been talking about winning the national championship since they were 11 years old.
Yeah. In the chapter 8, Make Lemonade, you talked about Bron's suspension during that time. Yeah. And again, it was so crazy to relive it. Yeah. I remember seeing Bron on the Akron Beacon Journal. They had him on there with his jersey. It was a spectacle, to say the least. Mm-hmm. At any point in time, like back then, did you ever feel like they were like railroading you because you was a black coach with a majority black team? And like, this is early 2000s, like, you know what I'm saying? These dudes had tats, but they still had to like cover their tats. Like, this is a completely different time than the social media era. This is 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So it's a different time. Yes. So at any point in time, did you feel like there was like, it was a lot of racial components going on in the media slander?
Oh, that's always going to be there. Mm-hmm. It's always going to be there because let's be real. They control that. Mm-hmm. They control that. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Bron, at the time, I said, look, you've been built up pretty big, but understand. There's some people out there waiting and wanting you to fall. Yeah. In fact, there was the plain dealer had a reporter, and that reporter's job was, this all can't be all good. Find the dirt. That was about find the dirt. Yeah. And when the jersey thing happened, she was the one. And she had been going around talking to a whole bunch of different people in the AAU circuit. And we had some people who didn't like us because of the notoriety we was getting. And one of those guys shared what had happened. Mm. And that's how all that stuff happened with the jerseys. But, that senior year and, feel like, okay, oh, wow, they trying to take us down. We're number one team in the country. Bron got to sit down. The chatter out there, they can't win without Bron. And I'm like, wait a second, y'all don't understand. We could win a state championship with this group without LeBron James. Y'all y'all wasn't giving them guys their props. Yeah, they wasn't getting their props. So those two games we had to play without Bron. Hey, of course you want him to play, but he didn't play. He was the biggest cheerleader on the bench. But we won him. We won him big. And then when he comes back. The next game he came back, it was funny.
50-something, right? Yeah, like 52.
Right. And, I go to pull him out the game, and Dru looks at me and said, Dad, let him get 50. I said, get 50? What are you talking about? I look up at the score, he had like 48.
Oh, you didn't even know what he was
I didn't even know. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And, so ultimately, y'all going to win state the next year, win a national title. Mm-hmm. And history is written. Bron becomes who Bron is.
Yes.
And again, man, like, it's crazy looking back on it and seeing it relive today. People was like, okay, well, obviously he was gonna be who he was, but like, Bron has exceeded every expectation on the court, off the court, just all across the board. How much do you believe that we are taking Bron for granted, and like, how much are people gonna miss him when he is done? Because, man, when it's all said and done, Bron liable to have all the records. He may have 5 or 6 more, you know what I'm saying, 5 or 6 chips altogether, played 20 plus years, a few different organizations. Yeah. Like, it's going to be unmatchable. You know what I'm saying? So how much do you think people really take him for granted?
You know, when you consider this, and Dr. J said it to me the best way, and he said, look, he said, they was talking about the comparison, Michael and Bron and Kobe. You know, he said, wait, he said, look, he said, this man has been to the final, you know, like 9 out of 10 years or 10 straight years. He's like, that's like going to 10 straight Super Bowls.
Right.
Who done that?
Yeah.
Ain't nobody done that.
Yeah.
So, you know, he put it in perspective, and that's how it is. I mean, are we going to miss him? Yeah, because, you know, what's most important and what people don't understand, they just think, oh, he's just blessed with this athleticism. There's a whole bunch of guys who may be a little more athletic than him, but it's the work. There's no substitute for the work. Yeah. I've been around him since he was young, and when he, and how he takes care of his body now, the things he does. I had the privilege when the documentary came out. I have the privilege of traveling around the world with him, and I tell people all the time, everywhere we went, China, France, England, he always found a gym. He always put in the work. Always. And a lot of guys, get to the league, hey, the season's over. Hey, they ain't gonna do nothing until training camp.
Right.
That ain't him.
Right.
That ain't him.
Right.
And he understood. He understands. So, what we talked about as kids. That you speak reality into existence, and you don't be afraid to say things. When they were young kids, I told them they were 11 years old. Walk around, tell people we're gonna win a national championship. We're gonna win a national championship. And they were saying that stuff. Like Bron say now, I want to be the greatest player of all time, and that's what you do. You say it, but then you got to work at it and understand. And bottom line, you don't make it, you don't become that.
Right.
It's like the old. Hey, what's the old saying? Yeah, you shoot for the stars. You shoot for the stars. At least you're going to end up in the sky.
Exactly. Which is a amazing result. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like that's still.
Yeah, and the other thing about Bron is the great thing about him is he was not that guy who had to go through all the negative to understand this is negative and I don't need to do this. He was able to look from the outside and see what this person did, where this person failed. Like I don't need to do that. I don't need to experience that kind of failure off the court to understand how precious it is that I have this opportunity on the court. So he's done those kind of things and kept that side of his life together. And when you think about it, hey, he come from his mom, I love Glow to death, but hey, single parent. He didn't have, there was no father figure around him.
Yeah, he came from the real struggle, man. That's
it. And to be the kind of dad that he is, to be the husband and the father, those are the things that are important. Those are the things that, we need to understand that are, big to me, are bigger than the basketball. I had the privilege of when he won the second Maxwell Award in high school, to go to Atlanta where they give out the award, and I got to introduce him. And I said in that moment, and hey, I don't know whether I was being prophetic, but I just believed it, and I still do that. I said, hey, he's going to do greater things outside of basketball than he's going to do in basketball. Yeah. That's what I believed about him, and I speak that about him all the time, and that's what he continues to do. And those are the things that means something to me. The I Promise School, all the things that he's doing, with his podcast, the Uninterrupted and all those things. Those things are giving a voice to some people who never have that kind of a voice, and telling stories, letting them tell their own stories, instead of having someone else tell the story for them. Yeah.
Right. Bron only 36.
Right.
Like, he's still young. Right. In the grand scheme of life, he's still a young dude. Right. Although he's a veteran player, he's young, and he's still man. I'm of the belief that, man, greatness becomes boring. You know what I'm saying? After a while, like, you know what I'm saying? It's so easy to nitpick greatness.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? And like, it's much harder to just be in the moment and just appreciate how amazing it really is.
Yeah, a lot of times, people, even in your own life. Sometimes you get so caught up in all the things that are out of your control, and you miss out on those things that are in your control, those precious moments. And, hey, I'm like I said, I'm a firm believer. Hey, chase your dream, chase it. Go ahead, chase it. Hey, if it doesn't happen, keep chasing. Don't give up. Just keep chasing. And that's what's most important right now, and for all of our lives, is that that you have a dream, and hey, when you accomplish that one, the Creator will give you another one, and then you want to go, hey, chase that one, and you get that one, He'll give you another one. So that's how life is.
Man, you ultimately end up leaving corporate America.
Yes.
In 06, start the AAU tournament full time. But man, you are a family man, you a husband, you got children. I think you even got grandchildren at this time. So you have career transitions at a later point in life. Which is a lot of people would say, man, for what? I'm not doing that. But you stepped out on faith again and did it. Speak to the intention of facing the fear and doing that.
It was all about just trusting your heart, doing doing what I loved. I had fallen in love with the coaching. I wanted to do it full time, and I had to figure out a way that I could do it. And so those were that was the driving force. That because I understood my purpose, and I understand my purpose in it. My purpose is about helping boys grow into men. It's the basketball is just a tool. People. When people get to know me, some of my friends like, well, you don't even watch that much basketball. And I don't. But that's because basketball is a tool for me. Now, trust me. Don't get it twisted. I'm studying. I'm studying. I'm gonna put my work in.
No doubt.
I'm gonna be the best at this I can be.
No doubt.
But I'm not gonna be that guy who has to sit up and watch 24/7 all the time. That's not who I am. There's other things in life that are important to me. But it's seeing some young men, 20, now 10, 12, 15 years now down the road, now you can see if you really had an impact. A guy fresh out of high school, you don't know. You don't know. But, I always tell people, give a player of mine 10 years, and then I can look back and say, okay, not just me, but me and my staff and the people around us, we had an impact. And we've been seeing it, and so it's a great thing when you understand your purpose. It's not about you don't go to work anymore, that's not work. It's your livelihood. It's what gives you energy, and that's what coaching is for me. It's my purpose, and the purpose. Basketball just happens to be the tool. The purpose is raising boys, helping boys understand how to be a man, what it is to be a responsible individual, and encouraging them to not just accept what life throws at them, to have a dream. I went to speak to some kids not too long ago in a middle school in Mansfield, and I asked them, and I said, well, how many of y'all got a dream? What's your dream? And to sit there, and none of them raised their hand. And it hurt my heart. I'm like, wait a minute. No, you can't live and not have a dream.
Right.
Because now you're not living.
Right.
There's nothing pressing you forward. There's nothing for you to strive after. You just existing. That's not life. That's a waste of life. We all got a dream. And hey, the Creator gives us a dream. A lot of times we don't recognize it. Sometimes we push it aside because we think, oh, I can't make money doing that. So that I'm not going to do that. Because a podcast. What do you mean doing a podcast?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it ain't about the money. It's about understanding. Hey, I tell the guys, do what you love, And the money will follow.
Money follow.
Yeah. Do what you love, the money will follow.
Yeah, that's so important, man. I hope people really take that to heart, you know what I'm saying, and really take the value into that, because I'm a full believer in that. I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
One of the reasons that I also wanted to have you here is because, man, I want to do my own healing work with you and have a conversation with you publicly that I've never really had. 06, 07. For those who do not know, I graduated from Copley High School 07. My senior year, we were undefeated, 21-0.
Mm-hmm.
And context, we had played St. V the 2 years previously, lost to y'all, got smacked by y'all in the playoffs 2 years previously. It's our senior year. Mm-hmm. We just knew this was our year, right? We just knew. We played Glen Oak first game of the season, beat them. We just knew that this was our year.
We lost to them.
we knew. We like, all right, this is the year where we feel like down the line, we got the talent, we got the experience. We just feel like this is our year to do it. Mm-hmm. We end up running into y'all. We end up losing, but there's some there's some context in this story that I believe, looking back on it, I believe that game was lost before we even played. And you told this story one time about how in the seeding meeting, when you guys came up with the seedings, you said you guys had an option of what side of the bracket you wanted to be on.
Right.
And you guys got the option to say, you want to go on the Copley bracket or whoever the other side was.
Right.
And you chose to come on our side. And I want to know and hear from you, from a basketball perspective, what made you so confident to do that and be intentional about saying, no, we not running from y'all. We coming to get y'all and we coming to play y'all. What, from a basketball standpoint, why did you do that?
Exactly that. I felt like, I wanted everyone to understand that, okay, y'all were the big dog. We coming for the big dog. That's who we are. We coming after y'all. And it was so funny. I kind of sensed that in that meeting, your former head coach, Dana Addis, he wasn't expecting it at all. Mm-hmm. He wasn't expecting it at all. And the look on his face told me, he's not ready. He's not ready.
We lost right there.
Yeah. Y'all, I felt like in that moment, because, in fact, we was going into the meeting, and, Bookdale coach was there, and they was like, because everyone thought I was going to go on the Bookdale side, and because that's kind of how seeding goes. Mm-hmm. The number one seed goes at the top. The number 2 or 3 go at the other end, and you don't really meet till the final.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, no, I'm going to go after them, because I respected that y'all were good.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I disrespected, because I know how y'all came up with my son, so I knew who y'all were.
And so that's what's that's what's so crazy about this story, because it was so much history within that game.
Right.
I'm talking to Cam literally every week. How y'all do? Y'all lost, man. We won, bro. We you know what I'm saying? We keeping up with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of history there.
Mm-hmm.
Moss played with you and AAU for years.
Yes.
It was a lot of history on both sides. We all knew the players. We had friendships, relationships.
Right.
So it was a matchup that it was the inevitable.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
And everybody, I think that, Dana was planning on it happening later on.
Yep.
And I said, no, we're going to make this happen earlier.
Yep.
And he wasn't ready. And I mean, it sounds so insignificant, but but it was significant.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going into the game, we just, we had talked about it, and, we just have that reputation in St. V, and, I felt like all the years, and we've always done this, we're going to play whoever it is. We're not running from anybody. If we get our butt beat, it won't be because we didn't play. Mm-hmm. We're going to come after you. And, in that game, It was a great game. It was a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you had kind of a big
I came out killing. I had 14 points, but I had 12 in the first quarter.
Right.
I scored 2. Hey, I'm talking junk. I'm looking at the stands. I'm beating my chest. I just knew we was about to get a dub.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out that way. And I just, man, it's so crazy because when we lost that game, going back into the locker room, everybody broke down.
Yeah.
Like, everybody broke down except for me.
Yeah.
And I think, and granted, in the moment I didn't know, but I knew what we had even though we had lost, I knew we had a special year.
Yeah. And
I knew that it was over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a tough moment. That's a tough moment because, and then, hey, that's because you got to transition into to the next part of your life. And hey, the next week. Yeah. The next week it wasn't like we were able to complete the task.
Yeah,
the task for us was to win a state championship. We had been to the Final Four the year before. So it was about, even though we graduated some number, Marcus Johnson, some really good players, we felt like we should get back. We always believed that. But then the next week, we lost in the district final and
to Kenmore.
And you know what? I got to live with this. Cameron, my son, having the game of his life.
You ain't put him on the free throw line.
Didn't put him on the free throw line. At the end of the game, I went with, what coaches do. I went with it was a technical foul.
He was your best free throw shooter.
Best free throw shooter, and all he had to do was make 2. He makes 1. And he missed the other one, and then, it goes into overtime. We don't get it done.
And you know what? I think that's another reason why that loss hurt so bad. Because y'all lost the next game.
Right.
I'm like, man, y'all at least should have went ahead and won districts.
Right, exactly.
Y'all lost the next game to a Kenmore team that y'all was much better than. Mm-hmm. But it was that is one of the ones, like that was a pivotal moment for me. But I think early on in my life, I think I always knew that I was going to utilize basketball as a tool.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I knew that my options of playing big-time D1 or just continued on, it just wasn't going to be there. So I was able to accept it a little bit differently.
Right. Okay.
But, man, I think about that game at least once a month, man. Like, I have literally vivid reactions of just how crazy that crowd was.
Yeah, it was packed.
Man, it was jumping in there, man.
It
was a great game. I think y'all ended up winning by like 12. I think y'all pulled away the last few minutes.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I just when I look back on it, I'm like, man, they won that game before tip off even started. Yeah. Because that's for everybody who says that coaching don't matter. That's why coaching matters.
Oh, it does. Coaching is about the leadership, and it's believing enough in yourself that you can help the guys get through those crucial moments when they don't believe.
Yeah.
And I saw a chink in his armor that he don't believe, and I'm like,
you did that.
Yeah. So the next week it was tough on me because not only did Cameron's high school career end, Dru's college career end on the same day in the same afternoon. It was tough, but life goes on. Give you another dream. The creator give you another dream.
That's a fact. That's a fact. It was looking back on it, I needed that. You know what I'm saying? So we just took it for what it is. Mm-hmm. Listen, man. One of my favorite chapters in the book also is Myth of the Self-Made Man. Yeah. And you talk about finding mentorship in outside places. Mm-hmm. And you talked about how John Wooden was a big mentor for you. Like, when did you kind of like learn that concept and understanding the power of finding mentorship in places, even if you don't necessarily have a personal relationship, there's still power in that.
Yeah. As I said, I'm a reader, and I was determined. Yeah, I could see that, Dru and LeBron and those guys, they were soaking up everything I knew. So, I wanted to be able to help them along their journeys. Their journeys, they had this both at that point. The only journey was to be a college basketball player, and I wanted to help them. So, I'm trying to be the best at this thing as I could be. And, growing up as a young kid and into high school, UCLA that was the team. John Wooden was the coach. Yeah. So I started reading some of his books and, just the way he went about it, his demeanor on the sideline, the fact that he had a standard, that for his team and the players on the team, and he wouldn't lower that standard. It was always this is who we are at UCLA, and you're either going to be this or you have to move on. And he and so that resonated with me, because when I became the head coach, years later, I understood that, hey, I have to set a standard here. This isn't Keith Danbrot's program anymore. I got to do this. I got to find my own way. And I understood going in, I needed to have a standard. So John Wooden, there's so many things that, I appreciated about his life. And I can remember when I'm reading, the team was getting good with Bron and Dru and them, and they were, 11, 12 years old. And I can remember taping this little saying on the dashboard of the car, because we driving back and forth to Cleveland to practice, because we couldn't find no practice place down here in Akron, but in Cleveland we get some free practice time. Right. But we spent a lot of time in the car driving back and forth, and the saying was, talent is God-given, be thankful. Fame is man-given, be humble. Conceit is self-given, be careful. So I wanted those guys to understand that, and we talked about it as young kids. Like, hey, y'all star is rising, but don't think too highly of yourself. Understand that this is you're part of something that's bigger than you, and if you take that attitude and you understand that this is bigger than me, then good things you can make some good things out of it. So, again, John Wooden, Keith Danbrot was a great mentor. He was he's a college coach,
right?
And so I had the privilege of watching him for 2 years under him. Bishop Joey Johnson is near and dear to my heart, because as a black man who started a church in his house with 4 people, and then you see the campus here in Akron, one of the biggest churches here in Akron. At its peak was 2,000 members on a Sunday. Just how he went about it, and that he was always prepared. He was always that kind of the kind of leader that you could look at. It wasn't like he wasn't shooting from the hip. He was. He cared. He was honest. He didn't have something going on the side that was that those things happened. That wasn't him. And you could look up to him, and I was like, wow. I just looked at what he built. Look at how you built this thing, and you saw just little things, that everything that we did was first class. And he would never let us do anything that wasn't of the highest standard. And he always talks about, we serve a God of excellence. And we need to give excellence back to him. And I still talk to my players about that even to this day, that, hey, we're going to be excellent in whatever we do, all right? And, excellence is something that you can never achieve, so you can always keep striving.
Yep.
You can always keep striving, and that's what we talk about. So, those people have been impactful in my life. Those, people who are, and I never met John Wooden, but I read enough of him that I feel like I knew him.
Right.
But that's important. You need that voice. You need those people around you that you can aspire to be like.
Yeah.
Those are good things. I'm sure that there's some people in the media who you want to aspire 100%. To be like. And that's good. And so those are great opportunities to learn from people who have been there in front of you. And that's one thing. It's kind of funny. My wife sometimes, she says, "Why are you sharing all that stuff with those coaches? They're gonna try to try to institute your program." I say, I'm at that point in my life. I have to share. I have to give back. I have to. Yeah. This is no question of I have to give back.
Yeah, you can't keep it all for yourself.
No, and it's not mine anyway to keep. So, hey. I have to give back, and because it was given to me, I have to give back.
Yeah. One thing that I take from you, and especially like even just listening to you speak, today, is that like you have a lot of healthy and successful habits and like rituals. Even in the book, man, you talked about, starting your day with meditation, and you were talking about affirmations today. Mm-hmm. Like you have a lot of like foundational things that I think that you would, say that ultimately helps lead you to success. Was that something that was kind of instilled in you as a kid, or did you have to like find that in your journey throughout your life?
Yeah, it's been a part of the journey.
Yeah.
It's been a part of the journey. Some of it, is those understanding those mentors, watching people, seeing what people are doing, and then reading. It's funny that I was preparing to become the head coach of St. Vincent St. Mary that first year, and as I was saying, I had to establish the program. I knew I needed to have a standard, and I was reading this basketball or something, hoops, winning hoops or something like. I don't even remember the name of it. It was sharing a story of this guy in Oregon, I think it was, and he was just starting the program, and he had these principles that he was going to found his principle. And I'm reading this, and it felt like he was talking to me. And I said, these are the principles I'm going to found our program on.
Right.
And that's what, our program, you go into the locker room, they're on the wall, and that's how we start every season. It's not about it's not about recognizing this and reading it, and we have a little ritual where we touch it. But I said, no. I want you to become this. I want you to become, I want you to have some humility.
Yep.
I want you to understand what unity truly means. I want you to understand discipline and servanthood and integrity, and you got to have passion. So, those are the things that are important, and I want you to strive to be that and become those things. And I said, if you become those things, then you become the man and that I want you to be. And, ultimately you become the man that God wants you to be, because that's even bigger than what I want. Yeah. And then you can do great things.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. That's powerful. Well, listen, one of my last questions before I get you out of here, man. Listen, coming off another state title win, I don't know how long you play, you know what I'm saying, if you want to continue to go for another 20 years. But the talk in the street, man, is that, you are the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? And I want to hear from you. Do you consider yourself the GOAT?
No, I'm just a laborer in the vineyard.
Okay, all right. You being humble. You being humble, man.
Hey, I let the body of work speak for itself. I'm gonna keep working, and I'm appreciative that people want to put me in that category. But I think it's important that I recognize that I got people helping me. I got good coaches, and hey, let's be real about it. It's more about the Jimmies and the Joes than the X's and the O's.
Yeah,
so,
that's a fact. Talent,
So I've had great players. We had a great team this year. Malachi Brandon's Mr. Basketball, and those are great things. And I'm just going to keep understanding that what my purpose is, and not lose sight of my purpose, and that's help boys grow into men. And if at some point someone wants to put that on me, then hey, I'm not going to. I'll be thankful that they didn't say something negative about me. It could have been worse.
Right.
Hey, and I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna keep working. That I don't think that honestly, my time is done yet. I got the kids help keep me young. Yeah. So I'll be 66 this July. I don't even want to put a number on it, because every time I put a number on it, the number don't work.
Right,
the number don't work. So I'm gonna keep going, and hey, the creator always helps you understand when to close a chapter in your life if you listen. And I understood when to close that chapter with LeBron in high school. Bron said to me, "Oh, Coach Dru, you coming with me? You going to?" I'm like, well, to do what? Not that I didn't appreciate it. I appreciate it. I'm thankful he wanted me to be involved. But the Creator made it very clear to me that this isn't for you. Your journey is different, and so I've stayed on my journey. And when it's made clear to me that okay, it's time to end this, then we'll end it, and we'll keep moving on. There'll be something else out here for an old man to do, and we'll enjoy that, whatever that might be.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, man, Coach Dru, thank you so much for coming, man. I really appreciate it. I don't take this for granted. I appreciate your time. It's crazy, man, because like locally, depending on who I'm talking to, I'm not repping St. V because I still got that sour taste in my mouth. I'm gonna keep it real to you. I'm gonna tell you to your face. I'm gonna keep it real.
It's understood.
But out of town, though, I'm riding with y'all. You know what I'm saying? If anybody ever, especially in Cleveland, I'm riding with y'all. Can't nobody say nothing bad to me about Coach Dru, St. V, the program, nothing. Period. I'm riding with y'all.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm riding with y'all. But thank you though. I really appreciate this. One of the things I do to close it out, man, I have like a few rapid questions that I ask. We'll go ahead and close you out. So the first question is, man, what are your, you spoke to this a couple different times about having, new chapters start, the creators putting new things in your life, to set new goals and things like that. What are your goals just kind of going forward? What is your 10-year idea plan being in your 60s today? What are your goals going forward?
Wow, that's great. But no, to continue to strive to be the best man that I can be. There's some things that I can be better at. As a coach, there's things that I can grow. I can still do better. So there's always growth. To keep having an impact. I honestly believe that coaching is a sacred responsibility. I do. I get to pour my life into the lives of young men at a very impactful age. So that's important to me, and I want to keep doing that.
Yeah. What are your intentions for this year? What are your intentions?
We're gonna win state championship.
Y'all coming back?
Hey, we don't lower the standard.
No doubt.
There's only one thing. You're gonna be. We're gonna lace them up and play. And if it's talking about wins and losses, hey, we want to win the last game. Yeah. I can lose all of them, but let me win the last one.
Right, no doubt. Keep the main thing. I'm not mad at that. What is your purpose, and how is that connected to what you're currently doing today?
Yeah, as I said many times, my purpose is helping boys grow in their man. I've been blessed to have an opportunity to be involved with young people, and and to know that, this is what I'm to be doing. When you understand your purpose, like I said earlier, you don't be going to work. You just living your life. Mm-hmm. So I'm living my life. I feel good about it. Yeah. And can it be taxing? Can it be tough? Oh, for sure. But that doesn't. Just because you found your purpose doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy.
Right. Yeah. What is your weakness, or something that you want to continue to work on?
Oh, for sure, for certain. I think the biggest issue with me is my wife. She's bless her. But she helps me to understand that. Sometimes I struggle with the worth. I've been blessed in a lot of ways, and sometimes I struggle at why me. So I have some struggles. At times, just understanding that I've been
feeling
placed,
worthy,
and have that worthiness. That So, but and then I also know that there's I can keep growing. I don't ever want to stop growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's something about you that people will be surprised to know?
Oh boy, I love football more than basketball.
Yeah, the Browns about to get to it this year too.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, coaching high school basketball is a tool, and I want to be the best at whatever I do. Mm-hmm. I want to be the best coach. Mm-hmm. I do. Mm-hmm. But football is still, the Cavs lose a game even when Braun was here.
The Browns is different.
Yeah. With the Browns, it's a little different. And that's a weakness. I need to be able to separate myself from it, but I can't.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's a tough one. Me and my granddad still more in the Browns. It's a tough one. When you from this area,
right?
It's no way around that. What scares you?
Oh man, what scares me. Not being the good soldier. Not that I have to be perfect, but I just want, I guess, the scripture says, you want to hear "well done, good and faithful servant." I guess I want to hear that. So there's some things that I know that, hey, because of who I am and maybe some attitudes that I got, will I not hear that? So that scares me. I want to hear "well done."
Yeah. What is your favorite quote or favorite scripture?
Favorite scripture. The favorite scripture is, that's so wild. I'm having one of those moments.
You having a moment?
Yeah. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
Okay.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path.
Powerful. What's the best advice you ever received?
Oh, the best advice I ever received is that life is a journey. All right, it's a journey, and to enjoy the process. I mean, so, for a while, you get caught up in the goal and the finished product, and but early on, it was shared. Just enjoy the journey. The journey. The journey. Those are the special moments. I think about some of the great times with teams and players, and it's usually not that championship game. It's something else that happened along the way.
If you could pick up the phone and call your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know today, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, boy.
Oh, you trying to figure it out. Hey. What would you tell a young Dru Joyce, man? What would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, because this is one of the things that, we've been blessed, and, I would tell myself to better understand how money works. Because that was, I grew up, we were, we were poor. Now I understand we were poor. My parents, they had, my father was a custodian, a janitor, my mother was a day worker. She cleaned rich white folks' homes,
Right.
But I never understood money, not the way that to grow it, to be able to, because there's so many things I love to be able to do, but I never accumulated the kind of money. Hey, I've been good at spending it.
Yeah.
So I've been able to spend it, but I think that I would, want to recognize the value of understanding how money works, because then you could you could give back in a greater way.
That's powerful. When you learn how money works and you utilize your money to allow it to work for you, you can buy some of your time back, which ultimately gives you freedom. You know what I'm saying? So that's very powerful. Listen, I know you got the tournament coming up in June. Anything else that you have coming up, man, that you want to just kind of tell people to point them to, anything like that?
No, the June is a hey, this is another faith walk. We're trying something we've never done at a time of the year that we're not sure of, but we're trusting and believing. And I got my son-in-law and his wife. They're helping me in a big way. They're supporting it, especially Devin, my daughter-in-law. She's out front. Yeah, she's out front. Devin's a great worker, and she makes stuff happen. She makes stuff happen.
Yeah, no, that's a fact.
So she's working hard. So the June 25th through the 27th it's going to be a great event downtown Cleveland in the convention center. We're going to bring in 18 courts under one roof, and it's going to be a festival on that Friday, the 25th, to celebrate the announcement of Cleveland next year being in 2022 hosting the NBA All-Star Weekend.
Dope.
So we're going to use our event to get that word out about that, and
wonderful.
Hey, be great basketball. We want we're trying to bring the best some of the best players and teams in the area, but definitely around the 5 states. And hey, honestly, if it wasn't for COVID, I'm sure we'd get a bunch of teams from Canada too.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, man, Coach Dru, thank you again, man. I appreciate your time. Wonderful book. I appreciate this book. For those of you who have not read it, it's called Beyond Championships, forward by LeBron James, a playbook for winning at life, Coach Dru Joyce II. Man, one of the things that we do to close out the show is we lobby for one of my inspirations to be on the show. His name is Charlamagne the God. He is a radio personality based out of New York, but he's doing a lot of spectacular things in the podcast space. He has his own podcast network. Yeah. Podcasting is going to continue to grow. For those of the people who do know, podcasting is slowly but surely becoming a powerful player just in the world of media, from audio, visually as well. And he's one of the biggest power brokers in that space. Yeah. So if you could, man, look in that camera and tell Mr. Charlamagne the God why he should be a guest on the Live Your Purpose podcast.
Charlamagne the God, do the right thing. Come help this young brother out who's got a vision, who's got a purpose, and he calls it Live the Purpose. Mm-hmm. Live your purpose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Charlamagne the God, come on, do the right thing.
Let's do it.
Be on his show.
Yes, all sir. Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, man, thank you, Coach Dru. I appreciate it. Darrell, man, good looking out, man. I appreciate my team.
Thank you.
LYP, man, continue to support the movement, continue to support the brand. We coming to do big things. Another episode in the books, Live Your Purpose podcast. We out. Peace.